You're watching or listening to Strangers in Space, and in this edition, we're going to be talking about episodes 3 and 4 of The War Between the Land and the Sea, so you don't have to. Hi, I'm JR.
Hi, I'm John.
Hi, I'm Matt.
So, in the first review of the first two episodes of The War Between the Land and the Sea, I think we came to the conclusion that Matt liked it the most, I liked it the least, and John liked it in the middle.
Okay.
I
John,
mean,
John is the new Simon in this.
I'm the referee, right?
Yeah.
so now we've had 3 and 4, and Matt, I think you were looking forward to. Well, I don't know if looking forward to them the most is quite the way you describe it, but you were looking forward to what happened when they got to the bottom of the ocean. So I guess let's dive in there.
Hey,
What I mean, okay. I mean, let's not do episode 3 and then episode 4. We'll just have a conversation. But let's start with episode 3. They did go to the bottom of the ocean. They did go to the Sea Devils undersea base. What did you think?
So it didn't didn't quite live up to the promise, which which was potentially inevitable, I
Yeah.
think. But obviously, you've watched two episodes and they promise that you're going, or they suggest you're going down to the deep. You feel like you're going to see the Sea Devil civilization a bit like um a bit like the Chibnall Silurian story.
Hungry
Um,
Earth.
yeah, Hungry Earth. I don't think it quite lived up to that promise
I
because they
don't.
end up going to a kind of a staging area rather than
Yeah, we didn't actually get to see where the Sea Devils live or any kind of a base. They
well,
said this was a
yeah,
temporary thing that they basically erected for the human beings, didn't they?
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, we were sort of told that they lived everywhere.
Yeah.
So which
it's
is
their equivalent of the aquarium, isn't it?
yeah,
In other words, they just sort of mooch around in the ocean
yes,
like
yeah.
fish.
Which is which makes sense, I guess, but it's a little bit unspectacular if you're sort of world creating, I think. There's something slightly nebulous about limiting yourself to the amount of the sea devil world that you're showing. It
It's
wasn't
a
quite
bit.
it's not quite parallel. So what excited me about the first two episodes was the idea that we were going to see the war between the land and the sea paralleled between the land and the sea. So we'd spend some time on land and see the conspiracy theories on land, and we'd see the same at sea. But actually, we're getting hints of the stuff at sea for budgetary reasons slash imaginary reasons, and we're mostly focused on the land stuff, which is disappointing, I think.
Did you, I take it you're not still as enthusiastic then?
I think a reality check. I still think it's watchable. I did find that I didn't immediately watch the fourth episode straight after the third episode, so it's not like
Oh, you're responsible for the
yes, the
0.75
plummet.
million drop.
Yes, so I haven't found it quite as sort of propulsive as the first two episodes were. Good cliffhanger though.
Right into the episode 5.
3 to 4, I thought was a good cliffhanger
Oh,
with
the
the bomb
bomb.
and the
I
guy that looks like Ian Gelder but is actually William
Yeah.
McNamara or
Oh, a South African actor, is he?
No, I think he's British. He's the guy from Silent Witness or Waking the Dead.
Yeah, I thought
Silent
I
Witness.
recognized him, but he was given a South African accent, wasn't
He
he?
looks
Or it was
very
at certain
much
points.
he looks very much like the creepy guy from Children of Earth, Ian Gelder.
And
But
he
I was
looked
a
a
bit
little bit like the guy in the hotel in the early seasons of I'm Alan Partridge.
yes. But the reason I was disconcerted by seeing Ian Gelder on screen is Ian Gelder died 2 years ago. So I spent a bit of time, which might explain why I got a bit distracted, trying to work out if Ian Gelder, this was his last job. But actually, it's a completely different actor. So there we go. You're welcome.
Fair enough. Um, I've got to say, it didn't improve for me. I still found it watchable, but I'm not intrigued by it or enthused by it. So, and I think I've worked out some of the reasons why watching these two episodes a bit more than the first two episodes. So I'll come back to that. John, how did you feel about these two episodes?
Um, Episode 3 was one of the slow ones, wasn't it? It's kind of where the
One of the
plot,
slow ones.
yeah, it's or the slow one, the
Yeah.
really slow one.
Episode 2, everybody just stands in a room and talks to a fish tank.
Episode 3, they just take a slow dive down to the bottom of the ocean. All episode, every
Episode
drop of
4,
water down there.
episode 4 takes place entirely in a warehouse.
Yep.
And
Well,
episode
and on the bridge. Hey, no,
Yeah.
Russell T Davies got outside. You can't complain about that.
Yeah, yeah,
They'd
but also,
shot on the bridge.
but also pacing isn't necessarily about where it's set. It's about what happens in the story and
Yeah,
the
it's
action.
it's doing a character piece essentially on those four characters, and that's kind of necessary to give that cliffhanger the stakes it needs.
Hmm.
So that, and you do get kind of better idea of who Barkley is, rather than just he's this guy with the family. This is what he's like under pressure with these four other people. He's the guy who reads the manual, whereas the other guy didn't read the manual and panicked when he just dropped water in there.
Well, except did he? Because at the end of episode 3, surely you've got to look back over episode 3 and think who was, making stuff up and pretending and acting a character in order to make. So that South African guy, by the end of the episode, I'm thinking everything that he did in that fish in the bowl as they were going to the bottom of the ocean was just a distraction so that nobody looked too deeply into the present that he was taking. Because as soon as he turns up with this globe, I'm thinking, surely red flag, you'd have a look and see what's in the globe, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you?
Would you allow that on that base? No, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
The sea devils have not been trusting so far, let's face it.
Well, yeah. And the humans. Surely unit. Surely rule one with unit would be somebody's turned up with this thing that looks like a bomb. Surely you'd check it out to make sure that it's not a bomb.
Oh, don't forget the other one of, there's been this mysterious message about severance.
Yeah.
There is a slight mitigation with all of this in that the whole thing is about wheels within wheels and senior government organizations undercutting other senior government organizations. So it's kind of, there's a sort of a confusion to it all, and I think that's one of the things that's going to challenge Unit in this, because they're not in control and they're not necessarily the other,
like Torchwood in Children of Earth.
And like Torchwood, they're not a British organisation, but they look like a British organisation because of Kate Lethbridge-Stewart and the Brigadier. But actually, this is one of those stories where it makes it clear that it's not a British organisation; it's a United Nations organisation.
And how fragile that backing is as well.
Yeah, and that's a rich thing to mine that
totally.
that was in the Pertwee era, but it wasn't sort of shouted about. It was just every so often the conventional army turns out to be run by plastic people, and
or the odd civil servant turns up,
or civil servants. So it's sort of in a good tradition, but heightened and modernized, I think.
But shall I tell you kind of the sort of overall takeaway I'm getting for this?
He's going to tell. He's going to tell. He's going to tell.
Is he? Is he? I'm on tenterhooks now.
But it's just that I'm finding everything a bit superficial. It feels like they've said, right, we've got 5 episodes to tell a single story. And then they've decided to pack so much in. And they've decided not to ignore the shortcuts that they could take, but instead to address the shortcuts. But by addressing the shortcuts, they're taking story time away from the main story. But in addressing the shortcuts, they're not actually spending any time with the shortcuts. So the shortcuts still feel like shortcuts that go unaddressed. For example, you've got the bit where they're all about to go in this diving bell, and so they've got 6 people who have no experience of diving bells. So they say, we must train. We must have 24 hours of intense training to go down in a diving bell. And so you get a 2-minute conversation taking up 2 minutes screen time about this intense training they must undergo to go down in the diving bell. And then the next thing you know, they're in the diving bell. We've not seen anything of the training, really. The training's not been given any substance, really. The idea that unfit people to go down in a diving bell are going down in a diving bell is what the story is showing us, even if it's telling us something different. And you've taken that 2 minutes out of the rest of the story that you could have used that 2 minutes somewhere else. And so it felt really superficial and perfunctory. And I'm finding most of the story beats feel really superficial and perfunctory. And yes, it was nice to spend all that time in the diving bell with those characters as they're going down. But because everything that had got us to that point meant I didn't believe in those characters or have any idea who they were, I didn't really care about them. So
I don't
I
think
don't
Russell T
know.
Davies is very good at building characters. I think he's good at knowing what who the characters are, and he's good at giving people extreme characteristics. So he's good at baddies,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
good at goodies, he's good at honorable people, but actually forming them because he doesn't have the kind of the wit and the sort of fast-paced wit of someone like Stephen Moffat or the humanism of Chris Chibnall. RTD sort of does use these shortcuts to build characters, but you don't get the feeling that the characters actually are real. He's just gone from zero to his goal
They,
yeah,
in the shortest possible time.
it's kind of they're all cartoons. It's the same
mm.
as his approach to government, to the army, to everything. It's everything is cartoon. It's a surface understanding of it.
It's
The
like
way
if
governments work.
yeah, yeah, it's like if they're not on a council estate, he doesn't really know who they are, and he finds it well, it feels like he finds it difficult to put across who these people really are.
I mean, I'm reminded of his when Doctor Who first came back with him. He sort of talked about, I think it was the reason why the sonic screwdriver was brought back. It's because you don't want the Doctor locked up for any period of time. The Doctor has to keep on moving. But what that ignores is those moments where the Doctor's locked up with someone and it builds character. It builds the Doctor's character or the character as somebody else. And actually getting out of those situations, pushing the story forward, you lose character moments, which is ironic considering the diving bell
Yeah,
scenes. But
yeah.
actually, the diving bell scenes
Do you
are all
think,
about the tension of it going down rather
on a
than.
slight side note, do you think that scene in the Day of the Doctor with locked up in the Tower of London and doing that thing with the Sonic, do you think that's Stephen Moffat lampshading that quote of Russell's?
Maybe.
Possible.
Do you know the other thing about locking somebody up and then using a sonic screwdriver to get them back out again is the author of the story makes a choice to lock them up in the first place. You don't have to put that story beat in if you don't want it. So if you put that story beat in and then have them use the sonic screwdriver to get back out, you've wasted 3 minutes of screen time that you could have
But
used for something else.
But the Sonic Screwdriver is mainly a narrative saving device because you have to compress that Doctor Who story into 45 minutes.
Oh,
You've then
yes.
got the Sonic conveniently opens locked door, conveniently opens it can pretty much do anything. So it saves you all that narrative time, speeds that
It,
story up.
And I think
yes, it can, but what I mean is that it's still in the storyteller's hands to put those things in the character's way in the first place. If you don't want the characters to be stuck on the wrong side of a locked door, don't make it a story about the characters being stuck on the wrong side of a locked door. Or if you want to make it a story about the characters being on the wrong side of a locked door, find a more interesting way to tell it. But do you know what I mean? I'm not arguing. The
no,
sonic screwdriver, I think,
no.
is a great thing, and we've gone off on a hell of a tangent.
Well, no, we haven't because it is about. I agree about
Yeah,
compressing the storyline. You have to get from A to B to C. But I think the problem with these two episodes is he chooses the wrong things to compress. I think is
yeah,
what we're saying. He
yeah, yeah.
compresses the wrong things and then he focuses on other things that don't add value. So it's kind of it's weirdly there are weird choices.
You get half an hour of them walking through caves, and when they come to the cavern, somebody gets a bomb out and blows it up. And yes, I get that the cavern is a more expensive special effect, but still walking through the caves must have cost something, and surely you've built some cave sets. Surely you can build a corner of the cavern set. So you could have done something in the cavern instead of just blowing it up. Shall I tell you what really put a pin in this for me is that bit when they're about to go down in the diving bell, and I've not got the actor's name in front of me, and I've forgotten it. It's Colin McFarlane. You get to the bit where he's going to do the big speech to sort of really G them up for going down in the diving bell, and it's 3 lines long. In the words of the great man, we can be heroes. Let's go save the world. And it's like, if that wasn't as perfunctory as everything else that was in the episode, that would be a great moment of clarity. But the fact is, everything in the episode and in the story to that point was just as superficial as that. So instead, it just felt as superficial as everything else.
It felt cut down because you're using one line of Bowie there.
Yeah.
And you need a little more than that.
Yeah, probably because
it was a joke, wasn't it?
Well,
because you expect him to give a kind of Crispiano speech, but actually he's just quoting David Bowie, and then
let's go. Yeah.
So
yeah.
actually, the brevity kind of worked for me because I don't think it landed particularly well.
Well, that's what I mean.
I found it a bit cringy.
And his performance of it was just awful as well. He was terrible. But on John's point about the lyrics, when he started doing Bowie, I thought, oh, is there something in that song that's pertinent to the situation? And then when he stopped after one line, I suddenly realised, no, there isn't anything that's pertinent to this situation. And that's why we've only got the one line. And then you're thinking, so he's made this point of quoting Bowie in episode 3, but we've got to wait till episode 5 before we hear the rest of the song. Yep. And I can't, and where they've left the story at the 80% mark, I cannot imagine there's anything going to happen in the next episode that's going to make that song pertinent again.
It's because it feels jammied in because he knows they're using heroes at the end.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
One line of it.
Yeah,
it's awkward.
Yeah, and I just kind of had that all the way through. Okay, let's change the subject up slightly. What did you think of the relationship between the man and the amphibian? I don't know whether she's supposed to be fish, mammal, reptile. I don't know what she's supposed to be.
There's a hashtag on Twitter about it.
Oh, is there? What's the
hashtag? On Blue Sky. It's hashtag Russell Tovey, a fish.
Well, that's imaginative,
isn't it? But that's the name of the series, isn't it? Now,
right? I mean, what did we think of that? I mean,
I thought it was fine. I think it came across in the performances. I think it was good. They had chemistry.
Yeah. You thought they had chemistry?
Yeah,
I didn't really see it, but it's fair.
Yeah. It came a little bit out of nowhere, but then that's part of the compression of the story. But I quite like the fact that Salt's character changed a little bit. So she has a sort of public kind of ambassadorial character, and I quite like the fact that she loosens up in private.
Yeah.
And we see something different, but it felt a bit like a character swerve. But I think it was just a different environment for her.
For want of a better word, it does humanize her.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. She had more to play with in this.
Yeah,
including Russell Tovey for now.
Absolutely. Well, same. We're 140 years on from the first recorded human reptile lizard relationship in the Doctor Who universe. So it's nothing new. It's just a bit more in your face then. Master and Jenny.
Yeah. I thought the idea of the relationship was fine. Like Matt said, I don't think they really sold where it came from quite. They had that scene in episode 3 where they talk for a minute and then he leans in for a kiss and somebody bursts through the door. And to be honest, I'm thinking, why are you leaning in for a kiss? Nothing in this scene so far has made me think that leaning in for a kiss is the appropriate thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's possibly people under pressure. They react in strange ways, so maybe that's what they're looking for on this.
But I think that the shape of water thing I think is fine, to be honest, given the way they've portrayed him. They've made her basically I don't know what they've made her, but she's not a fish and she's not a reptile. So, I think at this point it's moot. But that leads on to two other sort of,
It's Splash.
yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it is actually. That's what it is. She's a mermaid, isn't she,
Yeah,
frankly? Give or take. A
pretty much.
variation of a mermaid.
Yeah.
Which makes me think maybe it should have leaned more into the sort of fantasy thing. Episode 4. The idea of episode 4 was always on the cards, especially when we saw what the track listing of the CD was, right? That there'd be an episode where they're on the run from the authorities. But the sum total of them being on the run from the authorities is when they're lying in bed post-coital and these lights and sirens go past outside and she says, "Is that for us?" And he says, "Yes, it's for us." And they just lie there listening to it. And that was the sum total of the chase, really, wasn't it? I mean, I'm
Yeah.
exaggerating, but there
I was
wasn't an
fine.
awful lot more.
I was fine with that because they're looking for them, so they're not like on their tail.
Yeah, I mean, the
So
tension is, do they find them? It's not
yeah,
necessarily, they're not going to start running. They're trying to stay in one place and hide and
But
conceal themselves
but
and then make a stupid mistake, which was fairly obvious.
did you feel any tension?
Um, you're kind of supposed to be, I suppose, when he phones, was it the spare phone?
Yeah,
It's a,
yeah,
come on, that it's just how daft are you? You work for unit, and you think they wouldn't be monitoring any kind of burner phone that you've got.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's I think these episodes they have required people to act a bit stupidly to make the plot go forward, which is my issue with it, which is always my issue with it. I can understand with people making mistakes, but it's when they're just acting daft because that's where the plot needs to go.
Yeah, yeah.
And
it's
that's what's
also
going on.
it's also they've quite quickly neutered unit, but they haven't really shown it. So it's a little bit unclear
Well, they
about how much
killed off
power.
Kate's boyfriend.
Well, yeah, but that's not
That's
gonna.
kind of symbolic.
I mean, that's going back to when unit was four people. Whereas here we know that unit is a large organization, but it's a little bit unclear about how much power or how little power they have, and whether Russell Tovey could just go to unit and be protected, or whether unit is sort of is being stripped down or stripped of power.
Yeah,
Still a bit unclear.
it's again, it wants to have this storyline about businessmen being in charge of governments effectively.
Vested interests,
Well, no, being in charge,
generally.
calling the shots. That's
Yeah,
what it
that's
wants to
vested
be.
interest. It wants business, but it wants other governments as well. So it's very cynical about humanity and human nature. It is more interesting that,
But
like
but just
Malcolm
to
Hope,
finish
they're
that
on the
point,
side of the reptiles.
but it wants to have that in the story, but it doesn't actually want to tell that story. Do you know what I mean? There are lots of things going on here that it could be a story, that it could be about, but it never seems to be about any of those things, really.
I think
It
we
just keeps
probably
swerving from one plot point to another without landing on anything.
we probably needed to see more of the conspiracy in the first two episodes to seed the second two episodes,
Yeah.
rather than just the French lady being booted out of the whatever it is.
Mm.
That was a sort of a shortcut to say there is a conspiracy, but what it actually was in the first two episodes was there's going to be a conspiracy at some point, but unfortunately they've sort of run out of time to build the conspiracy effectively.
And they
And
put
now
her,
and now they've reached the final episode where
yeah, yeah.
presumably they have to wrap up the conspiracy.
Well, then they've put her back in the room.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
there could have been a plot point about they're forcing her back into the room. They're putting her back in the room so that she can be their eyes and ears, and they're forcing that on Unit, on everybody else. There could have been a storyline about that, but as it is, she just kind of turns up there, and you've kind of got to decide for yourself whether that's what's happened or whether the story's just forgotten that she's been banished. I don't know. It just lots of things. They're 45-minute episodes. Each episode's got 60 minutes at least worth of story. But because they're in 45 minutes, I don't know, it just
I think maybe it would be better, and I always say this, either as an hour and a half story or as a sort of a 10 part
yeah.
mini series. But then with 10-part miniseries, I don't think I don't think Miracle Day particularly worked
No,
in
but
terms of its scope. I think they ran out of steam
but
repeatedly.
also I think if you're going to tell it across 10 episodes, you've got to have a strong idea and a strong point of view in each episode. So going back to the example I gave at the start of the conversation about the training camp, episode 5 of the story could have been about the training camp. And you could have spent the entire 45 or 60 minutes or whatever at the training camp, and you could have had a mini plot there about the government conspiracy trying to inveigle their way into the training camp, setting up for the bomb that's going to come later. All of this stuff could have been teased out in an episode which spends a lot of time with those 6 characters getting to know each other and sort of mini plot points about, oh, she fancies him, or oh, he used to know her cousin, or oh, this guy was on the job when that guy's brother-in-law got killed, or something. You could have thrown a whole lot of stuff at an episode that was about that. And then the next episode that follows afterwards, where you spend an hour in the diving bell going down, would have meant something.
But you spend less time in the diving bell then because it's going to feel to the viewer like you've stopped the story for 2 episodes, which
No, I
again is a
don't
problem
think
in
so.
Miracle Day.
I don't think so because you make those episodes of the story. That's what I mean about having a point of view on it. You make those stories, you make those episodes the story for those episodes.
But the story goes, no, it's almost taking the tension out of the episode if you're doing that for 2 straight episodes.
Well, no,
Even if you're putting that plot, the plot in the background, it's just it's the characters are not moving anywhere. The story's not moving
But John,
on.
they've
That's
done
what Russell T Davies likes to do. It
But
was never
they've
going to
d-
happen like that.
but they've done that anyway. The entire second episode takes place in the room with the tank. The entire third episode takes place in the diving bell. They've done that anyway, but badly.
Half the third episode takes place.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean, though. They have done the thing that John
I mean,
says they don't want to
yeah,
do.
but I was worried that they were going to spend an entire episode in the diving bell, and so I was watching the clock, and it,
How long was it
half.
then? Was it
It
about
was
halfway
half.
through?
Yeah, half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Half in the
But even
diving
so,
bell, a
yeah.
little bit in the training camp, half in the diving bell, then the other half underground. But intercutting, I mean, I'm glad that they're intercutting with the stuff that's happening on the land.
Well, yeah.
The land stuff is a bit more interesting.
But that could just have been a way to tell the story because it just, like I say, to me at least, everything here just felt superficial. It felt like they were calling out about stuff without actually doing the stuff that they were calling out. I mean, another thing is, you get this weird scene in the 4th episode. Oh, the reptiles are coming back up through the tank. They want to talk to us again. Oh, and this time there's 8 of Homo Aqua. So that must mean it's a really important meeting. And there's yet another creature that we've never seen before. Something entirely new. Something that the story hasn't given us so far. Oh, it's exactly the same as Salt, except this one's male facing. And we've seen her male presenting too. So it's not like it's even new in that respect. So what was the point in flagging that up as something you've not seen before if it was only going to be essentially Salt, but a man?
He has to be flagged as important.
Yeah, but it can be flagged as important, but they flagged it. They flagged it specifically as something we hadn't seen before, but it was another amphibian thing like
the name
Salt.
kind of suggests that it's something slightly different. I don't know if it didn't necessarily come across that way. I'll agree with that. But
No,
she's Salt, he's Rust. They're named after
No, he's
the
tied.
ways which water erode.
He's tied, yeah.
He's tied.
But
tied, sorry.
But it specifically said he was a new kind of creature that they hadn't seen before. And when he arrived, he was exactly the same kind of creature as she was. So I don't know why they went out of their way.
Is there going to be a revelation about Salt's nature in episode 5? It might be foreshadowing that.
It could be, but I'm not entirely sure. He is the same kind of creature as she is. I don't think there's any question of that.
Visually, yes, absolutely.
Well, and that's what they were flagging up, isn't it? I think they just wanted to flag up it's another one of her, but not the one we've met before. But I don't know why they did. Again, they did it in that particular way. It's that Russell T Davies thing, isn't it, of making this giant promise, and then the reality of the promise is the next Doctor You make this giant promise that you're going to meet the next Doctor, and it turns out not to be what was promised after all. And sometimes that works, but don't do it all the time. Because if you do it all the time, then it loses any kind of, you know, substance at all. I don't know what else is there. I feel like there must be more that we should or could talk about, but I don't know whether there really was, to be honest. What did you think of like what we saw of their undersea, whatever it is, the the big special effect of all the reptiles standing there? I mean,
Again, it was like Hungry as Cold Blood. That was just, it was almost like straight kind of lift of those shots, I thought.
I didn't even think it was though, because Hungry Earth and Cold Blood gave you a sense of the place. This
It
was
was a
just,
scale, yeah. It was
yeah.
just that one set of kids. Yeah. It wanted to be, it wanted to be where the Disney money went. It didn't quite get there. I didn't, it wasn't particularly good for the age of HDTV, shall we say.
It's also not as much of a surprise. So the Hungry Earth, Cold Blood, the great thing about that is there's a whole civilization underneath a Welsh village with a church on top. And so it's the sort of the hollow earth theory. I kind of, if you go down to the bottom of the Marianas Trench, I kind of believe that you could see something like this. So it's almost like a more conventional reveal. It's almost like they've gone to another planet and
It's
found a
so far away,
civilization on
yeah.
another planet, which is fine, but it's not quite. It doesn't have that quite sort of weird feel to it. If Ben Wheatley had been directing it, having just watched Into the Dalek and Deep Breath
Yeah.
with kind of trippy visuals to disguise the fact that they're like the decontamination thing was just a light. If they'd sort of gone a bit more trippy on that, then it would be more interesting, I think.
And
So
that,
it almost needed to be more kind of psychedelic, I think.
well, and also the thing about at the end of the Hungry Earth, when you get the reveal, is as a viewer, you kind of go, "Oh wow, I wasn't expecting them to go there, and I wasn't expecting to see that and spend time in that." Whereas here, it's like the story does promise, and
Yeah.
when it reveals, it's just the bottom of the ocean, and there's a slight oxygen bubble. It's just kind of, well, so what?
Well,
Because that's nothing we couldn't have
it's what I
expected.
expected to see.
Yeah. But you would
Basically,
have expected to see, I think you would have expected to see something manufactured.
mm,
Because, I mean, the story's told us that they've survived because they hibernated, right?
mm,
So you don't hibernate for millions of years in the regular way of hibernation. You have to manufacture devices by which that's possible. And we've seen, we've seen the Sea Devils in the story. And regardless of what we've seen of the Sea Devils before, I think you have to believe that the Sea Devils that we've seen in the story would be capable of manufacturing things, wouldn't they? Or am I just imagining that?
it felt more like a sort of Zygon-y thing that it's more their technology is more organic. So what I thought when they went into this base was almost like a sort of Jonah and the whale feel. They're in this sort of creature or this organic entity that the Sea Devils use, and sort of the Sea Devils are almost kind of not parasitic, but they're kind of, you know, they're living in conjunction with much larger creatures around them, mysterious creatures. So rather than manufacturing things, they're recycling basically, which makes sense because one of their problems is the steel and glass and consumption and manufacturing.
Mind you, then I suppose it comes down to the reality of the science. Creatures that size couldn't survive at that depth, surely. And
Well, I
then
mean,
there's that big question about the fact that when the bomb goes off, she manages to get Barclay to the surface without suffering any ill effects whatsoever, even though
explained
it's a
though,
journey
Yeah.
of what, 5 miles or something?
that's sort of
Yeah,
explained away in a line, I think,
It is,
it
but
which is
is.
fine. I don't mind that sort of
But
shortcut.
he's gonna have a severe case of the bends when he gets up there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the line is fine, but I don't think the line quite covered it, and I was a bit. my suspension of disbelief was very sorely stretched at that point, and I think just pinged a bit
I,
on that. I don't
I,
think I'd have
I,
minded if I'd have been swept up in the story and you'd have cared about the characters and they'd have given you sort of fantasy other things so that, you know, but I don't think the story had really done that, so I did mind.
I
Sorry,
think
John.
I think your sense this week went out the window in the first week. So
It kind of, but it's still,
yeah,
I'm still watching it. I sort of
yeah,
stayed up till about an hour after I usually go to bed on Sunday night
I
to watch these
Russell
things.
T
And I,
Davis is always going to be entertaining, no matter if it's bad. It will always
yeah,
move along at a pace. It will always engage you. The character's work is enough in the moment to keep it going. But that doesn't mean that afterwards you won't go, "What the hell was that?" You know, there are moments in something like Years and Years where he's stretching stuff and it looks and it you're thinking, really?
It
but the
feels like
shame of it is it's Pete McTighe, a lot of this in these middle episodes. And look how inventive and how energetic, Lucky Day was compared to this.
Well, I still like practice. And that's kind of dealing in the
Oh,
same
yes.
territory as this.
No, I'm not saying that's the odd one out. I'm saying
Oh yeah,
what has happened to the magic of Pete McTighe.
yeah. Oh, you've seen the reaction to Kablam online, haven't you, Shirley?
well,
Yes, but at least there were reactions to it. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm
in
not.
this case,
I've got
he's
no reaction to this at all.
in this case, it's a poison. Well, it's either a gift that he's been given or it's a poison chalice, depending on your view. That he's writing the middle episodes of an RTD
Yeah.
series, so he's either picking up the glorious, inventive scenarios that RTD has given him, and he's playing in that sandpit, or he's constrained by the limitations that RTD has imposed upon him, and his sandpit is
He has to get
restricted.
from A to B to C
Yeah,
to
See, the
set the
thing
finale.
is, but that's why it's so disappointing. Because in Lucky Day, I feel like he did do that. He did pick up RTD's sandpit, and he managed to make something really special out of it. Whereas here, maybe it's because RTD's done the setup and the resolution, and Pete McTighe is left with the
But
sort of legwork in between.
the setup for Lucky Day is a little bit wonky to get to where you need to go. The rest of the story I love, but that set to get Ruby to
Oh
go with the
no,
conspiracy guy, that is
I think
yeah,
it
it's
really works. There's one shortcut in there. Would she really talk on a podcast?
yeah.
But I think apart from that, that whole setup, I think really works in service to the story that's
Well,
being told.
it's more that how would he conceal himself that long, that successfully, and not have anyone in unit who've been monitoring him know about it? It's our unit that bad?
Well, if she doesn't flag it up, then because
But
she's
yeah,
not a
but
unit
you look at
employee.
who, yeah, but you look at, well, unit are monitoring this guy. But we're going on a tangent here.
Oh, yeah.
It's a rough set. I said the rest of that episode works perfectly for me all the way through. It's some really clever writing. But yeah, I think it's not his own. He's not much his own thing. I do wonder if they're kind of trying to maybe push him to be involved in the production of the show going forward with this kind of thing as well.
Well, if there is any going forward.
There will be at some point, but we
There
just
will
don't know
be at
what and
some
where.
point, but well, as things stand, you've got to imagine that Doctor Who will go forward without anybody who's been involved so far.
Well,
I
depends. I don't know
think.
if Bad Wolf might be involved, but
Who
I
knows?
don't know if I don't know if on the creative side people will, you know,
Yeah, who knows? We've not really talked about Kate Stewart, and
Colonel Sexy. It's
yeah, is that what it's called?
apparently online. Yeah,
Fair enough. He was. So a lot of people seem to think he's a lot younger than her, but actually
I
10
don't think
years
it's
at
that much,
most,
is
isn't
it?
it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, um. So he gets killed off. I mean, that seemed like a kind of an ob. This is Russell T Davis again, isn't it? You take a character who's not been very big so far, you increase their role only to kill
yeah,
them off. That's what he did with Yanto, really. I mean, he's repeating all the
yeah.
beats of
Of
Children
Children
of
of Earth.
Earth,
Yeah,
isn't
I
he?
was thinking that.
Yanto suddenly goes from being
But
a sort of second string character to sort of,
who's suddenly having a relationship with the boss.
despite the fact that, only a few episodes ago he was into cybernetic women. So, well, maybe, but the point being, what did you think of the sort of Kate Stewart storyline?
I don't think I don't think he's been fully developed enough for me to feel Yanto-ish. I don't think he's going to get a
He's not
shot
been
in
fully
Lupin
developed at all, has he?
No,
But I think
he's a muscle in the background.
his death was more just a cog in the, or a tooth in the cog of her pushing her to the edge. So they're clearly giving her more to do because they're not letting her sleep or go home, and so her decisions are being questioned, and so it's introducing that kind of tension at the top of Unit, that Unit could fall apart because you know
Well,
only she can make things
Yeah,
happen.
it's like Children of Earth. I'm never convinced by that relationship in the first place. I don't think there's that much chemistry. I know to a certain extent it's Kate can't switch off that unit half of her brain.
Well,
But there's
no
no
more
kind of
chemistry. Yeah, there's
it's
no more
cold.
chemistry here than there was between Yanto and Jack, where
Yeah,
there was
what I just
zero
said.
chemistry as well. Yeah, yeah.
Totally.
And as for Kate, yes, next episode. I mean, it's building up to her doing something completely ridiculously stupid in the next episode, isn't it?
It's got to be building up that kind of Barrowman kid knocks off his grandson moment, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
got
it
to
has
be
to
that
be.
kind of decision. But that breaks the character. How can you have that character back in Doctor Who after they do something terrible?
Well, this is it.
I mean, it feels to me like they're building up for someone to make a Doctor-like move, not necessarily like the ruthlessness that was
Or
in Children of Earth,
choice.
but some sort of, because all of the communication, all of the story, it's all been done through kind of diplomatic speech. So there's this recurring thing of following the script, follow the script, follow the script, and then you get Russell Tovey and then Lethbridge Stewart going off script, and I think that's going to be the main thing. It's going to be more
Yeah.
of a sort of Capaldi in the end of Zygon inversion moment, I'd imagine. I don't think
You'd
it's going to
hope
quite go
so.
as dark as
I
Children
don't
of Earth.
know. Russell can be a very cynical writer.
Yeah.
I wonder if he's going to do something with that character that bends her, basically, in one way or another. She either gets killed off or ends up in prison or something for some act of ridiculous stupidity or just fallen asleep at the wheel. Shall I tell you the other thing that I think this story really misses? And this is going to sound,
He's going to tell. He's going to tell.
and this is going to sound really obvious, but I don't mean this is specifically what it misses, but I think it's the idea of this is what it misses. The Doctor and his companion, you can put them in any story, and as dark as the story can be, the Doctor and the companion bring a relationship and an energy and a charm to the story that means that you can go as dark as you like, as
They
serious as you like with everything else, but it will always come back and have levity and have fun and have something that
they
drives you
bring
through it.
they bring hope, which is my problem with Children of Earth, is that there's no hope. And I strongly suspect this will go with kind of a genocide on the Sea Devils here.
Yes, absolutely.
But
And
that,
I
And
that
think the absence of the Doctor and the companion or characters that perform that function means there's no life in the heart of this story. I think so. Russell Tovey, he's a great actor, but his character's got no life. And Salt, she's a character who doesn't have any life. And if they're our central couple at the heart of this story, you just think, where's the vivacity?
I
Salt,
think I think the Russell Tovey character is the Doctor character in
That's
this,
what I
yeah,
mean. But
but because of the way the story is, he's not connected with anyone else other than Salt, because it is the sort of Romeo and Juliet isolated story. And if you isolate the Doctor, then the Doctor has no agency, and the Doctor can't bring levity. The Doctor's just on his own,
but
and
the
I
Doctor
think
always
that's the
brings
problem.
but the Doctor always brings charisma,
Yeah,
even if he's on his own. I don't think Russell Tovey's bringing any charisma into it.
yeah,
and
but that
much
charisma doesn't lighten the world around him. If the Doctor was in this story and the Doctor was just on his own, you'd still have the darkness going on.
and kind of
Yes,
much
but
as we're talking about Salt, she isn't actually important for her character. She's important because of what she is rather than who she is. So that I think has been a little bit of a failing at the heart of the episode. Gugu Butterfly has done a really good job of bringing her to life, but it's still she's a I don't she's a walking plot point really. That's it at the minute.
Well, and yeah, and she was supposed to develop into something more than that in episode 4, and it never really happened, did
Is
it?
she going to get episode 5? That's the trouble.
But going
Before
well,
the end.
but no, she'll be yeah. But going back to what I was saying about the Doctor, can you imagine if you've got Ncuti Gatwa in that instead of Russell Tovey? It would have given a very different energy to the heart of that. And the rest of the story could still have been just as dark. But by having that energy in the center of the story, I think it would have just brought it to life a bit more. I just think there's nobody in it bringing it to life. I think.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it's
So it's not about the Doctor being there, but it's about somebody
yeah,
being there who bring the life into the story.
it's Russell's again. Russell's skewing very dark if he's not writing for the Doctor. That's the thing. Even in his non-Who work, you know, in Cucumber, that's dark as hell. Years and years goes, you know, as dark as you like. So
Yeah.
maybe
Whereas
he
Mine or
needs a
Mine and Bob and Rose have got a sort of have got a character there who's doing that thing.
They've got like comic actors starring you, Griff Rhys Jones, Alan Davis.
Yeah, yeah.
That's who's bringing the energy to it.
Right. Have either of you got anything more you want to say about these two? I can't think of anything now.
It's difficult to judge without the final. I mean,
Yeah.
Have we missed something that's going to be important? I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, not in a Russell T Davies story.
No, there's no,
It's not Stephen Moffat.
That subtle.
Yeah, no. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm hoping that the last episode will bring it around and make sense of it. But as it is, we've seen 80% of it, and I just don't feel it's come to life, really, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, the ending of Children of Earth, for those who like that tone, that grim dark tone, that works, and yeah, I can see it perfectly. Again, Miracle Day, yeah, the explanation works, but Russell T Davies's finales are never really that strong point.
No, even something like The Second Coming, I really like the end of The Second Coming, but I
Yeah.
can see for a lot of people that would be a big disappointment because it kind of flattens out instead of spiking at the end, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's ugh.
Any
Again,
more?
it's a cold ending.
Oh, very much so. Any thoughts then, Matt, before we say goodnight on this one?
No,
No.
we don't score it, do we?
All right, I guess we'll come back next week. I mean, unless we want to make predictions, but I don't know. John said
I mean,
genocide of the Sea Devils, and I don't know. I don't see where else it can go at this
I
point.
think it's going to be. I think it's going to be lighter. I think it's going to be more optimistic. But who knows?
It's not going to be the end from Cold Earth or whatever it's called, though, is it? Cold Blood? Cold Blood,
Cold
yeah.
Blood.
They're not going to be able to do that. But unless, Russell T Davies wants to entirely change the universe again and then forget all about it. We'll see. Right, we'll be back in 6 days, next Monday night or Tuesday morning, depending on whether you're watching us or listening to us, for the final episode. Until that happens, I was JR.
I was John.
I was Matt.
And we will speak again soon.